Okay, so yesterday you did a very, very nice job of doing your problems and bringing them to class, and today we are going to do the same thing. You have three problems that I would like you to solve using your common denominators to see if they are, which one is greater or less than. You're just going to compare, see which one is bigger. We're also going to spend a little time, I'm going to show you in just a minute, is that when we are doing our fractions and getting the common denominators, what we are doing, so if I have 3/4 and 5/8, really what we're doing is that we are having our shape, so we have our whole, and I'm going to use a candy bar. Oops, I didn't draw it exactly right, so I need one more part. Okay, so I have fourths for my first one. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to color in 3 of them. There's 1, 2, 3. All right, so right now, this 5/8, we want to see what is it compared to 3/4. So we take that same shape and we have our fourths, and now we're going to make it eighths, and we're going to color in 5/8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So notice it's the same shape. Nothing changed. All I did was make the parts smaller. So I made these parts smaller. And from a picture, what can we see? We can see that 3/4 is bigger, can't we? So when we're doing that with our common denominator, all we're doing is we're making it, because we don't always have the pictures, they're not always easy to draw, but we're going to change our 3/4 to eighths. I'm going to draw this right here. Now this has eighths, doesn't it? This one already has eighths, so we don't have to do anything with that, right? This one has, now this one has eighths. And how many did that change into? It went from 3 to how many? 6. So our denominators are the same, so we can look at our top ones, our numerators. Is 6 bigger than 5? Yes, it is. Now let's see if when we find our multiples. So this is, we're going to do multiples right here. I'm trying to show you how the pictures, what we're really doing with the numbers. Okay, so we're trying to figure out how we get from 4 to 8. So we do our multiples, and you're really good at this. 4, 8, that's just 12. And then this one, 8, and we learned we can stop because we already know we have a common one. Oops, I just lost my lid. So we know our little helpful hint of this is times 1, times 2, times 3, and this is times 1. And most of us, we get to this part right here, and then we get stuck. We know that the eighths are the same. That's what our common denominator is here, and that's what we change it through here, and that's when we change this line right here. We made those into eighths. Now, when we made it into eighths, what did we do? If I look right here, to change this 4 into eighths, what did I do? I multiplied it by 2, and that made them into 2. Do you see that? And so that means to get that 8 with my numbers, I multiply by 2. And that's how we get the 6 and the 8ths. And that's what it looks like in the pictures. Now, with our bottom one, we've already said if you multiply by 1, you really don't have to do anything but bring it down. So I'm going to show you a few with some more with pictures to kind of get you to realize that we're not changing the size of the shape. All we're doing is changing the size of the pieces so we can compare better. Because when we don't have the picture, it's a lot harder to imagine. So having the picture really helps, but drawing the pictures take time and sometimes they're not so easy to draw. So that's why we are really practicing in our common denominator. And the step that we're getting stuck on is we're great at finding our common denominator, but then what do I do next? How do I know to multiply? And when we're getting the common denominator, that means we are taking our two shapes with a different amount of pieces and changing them to have the same pieces. We want them to have the same pieces because when they have the same pieces, it's easier to recognize. Okay, so let me go ahead and let me show you another example. Okay, so here we go. Here's our 3/4 and 5/8 again, but this time it's with the circles. So it's a different shape. However, look at it. Is the 3/4 still bigger than the 5/8? Yeah, the 3/4 is still bigger. So no matter what hole that you use, 3/4 is always going to be bigger than 5/8 because all we're doing is we're just changing the size of those pieces, but 3/4 of something is always going to be bigger than 5/8. So now look at this next one. We have 5/9 and 2/3. And so when we're looking at it, sometimes we have a tendency to just look at the numerator and say, oh, that's bigger. But the trick to remembering is with fractions, we learned this probably in 2nd grade, maybe 3rd grade, the bigger the denominator, the smaller the piece. So even though it looks like a big number, those pieces are really small. And so you really, you can't go off that number. You have to break them into the pieces or use your pictures to help you. And we've learned actually, thanks to Arian, a way to use tables to help us figure that out. And we'll show you today in class how to do that. So looking at 5/9 and 2/3, 2/3 is bigger than 5/9, and we can see that very easily with the picture. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to solve this problem and prove it to me using common denominators. So you're going to have 4 problems when you come to class. You're going to have the first 3 that I gave you, and you're going to have this one. I want you to prove it to me. I see it with the pictures, but I want you to do the common denominator and show me that 2/3 is greater than 5/9.